I really think it's hard to say each game they play now doesn't mean just so much because the Yanks have underwhelmed this year with their underwhelmed and underachieved. They had much higher expectations. Obviously, they're sitting at 4 games above 500, 38 and 34. Not exactly where fans or their franchise would want to see them right now. Uh, I point towards the inconsistency of the lineup as a whole, but we can dive into that more deeply in a few. But Thomas, I want to think your initial thoughts right now on the state of the Yankees, whether it's whether it's their pitching, whether it's their hitting. What is their number one, I guess, concern to get going here for the second half of the season?
I think the problem that the Yankees have is, I mean, you mentioned the inconsistency. I think the Yankees have become a roller coaster. They're just trolling everybody. They're like, oh, we're not actually like a bad team. We're just trolling you. Like, they're kind of messing with everybody. But I think there's reason to concern, A, because of the injuries, and that just has been killing them for like, what is it, like 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah.
The second problem that I have is they tried too hard to just hit home runs every time. You don't have to do that every time. Okay. You got to play hit and run baseball, sack flies, squeeze, bunts, safety squeezes, stealing. And the Yankees don't do pretty much any of that. Maybe sacrifice flies every here and there, but they don't really do much of that. And the other issue is that the depth chart in terms of the outfield is so incredibly thin on the offensive and the defensive side that it's hard to really produce from that part of the team. And I mean, you have Aaron Judge, who's a phenomenal bat. He's going to probably make the All-Star game, batting over 280 on the year. He's got almost 15 home runs, and I mean, he can't be the only outfielder doing stuff. I mean, Miguel Andujar went on a nice little hit streak. Clinton Frazier, who everyone was kind of, I don't want to say forcing, more like glorifying as the best ninth hitter in baseball. And that has just been anything but that. He has been nowhere to be seen this past month and a half. And I think there's a good chance he's going to run into some troubles staying on this roster. Rougned Odor, you paid cash to get him. He hasn't been good at all. I mean, he's got some good moments. I'll give him that, but I don't know if he's actually a good baseball player. And then Luke Voigt, I mean, he came back. That was great. He had the home run on the first pitch last night. He had a triple with the help of some fans. But he's, you got to see how much you get out of him. And DJ LeMahieu has been the mainstay and kind of the controller of the Yankees lineup. Where he goes, they go, and he's kind of hit a wall. I think the machine's having a malfunction. And the last thing I'll point to is bringing in Jameson Taillon and not calling up Domingo Germán or Luis Medina by now. Jameson Taillon has been egregious, if I'm going to be nice. Okay. I have other choice words, but I'm not going to say it. He has been not good at all for the Yankees. I thought this has been a waste of an acquisition for them. I understand why they do it, because Garrett Cole, like, they're buddies. So you do that to make the ace happy. I understand in theory, but Taillon just can't do anything, right? And I think we'll give him a break. He is adjusting to a new motion, a new throwing motion. He used to when he used to pitch, he used to wind all the way back up like this, like a slingshot. Now it's more discreet, much shorter motion. It's not as tough on his elbow as the other one was. But I think also pitching in Yankee Stadium has just such expectations that you put on yourself. It's very hard to pitch in Yankee Stadium and be successful pitching in Yankee Stadium. So, I mean, those are just some of the things I see. I know people have just been pointing that out for months now. Are they going to turn the roller coaster around into an actual like machine? I have no idea. It's right now it's a roller coaster. That's what they are.
Yeah, you've always got these terms that I think, where do you come up with it? And somehow they work. They describe a team very, very well in a unique way, and that's what I think is awesome. But, I've always had this problem with the Yanks since they last won their title in '09. It's the inconsistency, but if you want to change the term from inconsistent, it's more so boom or bust with the guys on this team. It's guys who are going to go long or they're going to do nothing. Boom as in the homer, or bust as in a ground out or a strikeout, or we leave guys stranded on base for as long as I can remember. There hasn't been a change really in I guess the Yankee or the orientation of how the Yanks are built. I mean, obviously LeMahieu, like you said, the machine, it malfunctioned or something. He's hitting 263 right now. Not terrible, but compared to what he has done in the past few years for us,
Not good.
MVP caliber stuff.
Hmm.
This is not it. This is not what we were expecting. This is not what we were expecting, especially when the Yanks paid him. You look at the highest batting average on the team is Aaron Judge. He's batting 283. Then you got Urshela 273. You got a couple of guys batting in the low 200s. Rogan Odor, like you said, I don't trust him as a real.
I think he has good heart. I'll give him.
Oh yeah, well he's clearly got a lot in him energy wise.
Good heart.
All I think of is the Bautista punch with him, but
Oh,
that's what we brought over. He shaved for the Yankees, so that's one thing
oh
too.
God.
But he's hitting 193, so he's not a real reliable option. But you can even look at games where the Yankees will score 3 runs and they'll lose 5-3 because their 3 runs came off of 3 solo shots. Maybe a guy works a walk, or maybe you get a base hit. Maybe you bunt, move a guy over, you get another base hit. They don't play that small ball, and that's why I think that their team mesh is not there right now. I know Aaron Boone said these guys aren't giving up. Of course they're not giving up. Who would this early in the season? But it's just not 38 and 34 is not where I think anyone was really expecting to see the Yanks this year. Again, the injuries have been killer. Losing Kluber, I think, was arguably the biggest blow to this team because I think his first couple games he struggled a bit, but he had been very solid, just a reliable starter to go out there for the Yankees after Cole. But now he's obviously out. You got to call guys up. Michael King pitched tonight. Like you said, you like him more as a reliever. I agree with that. I see him starting on the bump. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So you have to have guys, like I said in the NBA segment, step up. And sometimes I think baseball is an even harder sport to do that than any, because a lot of times you're just coming off of doing nothing. You look at Hicks is injured, so the outfield it's limping, like you said. I just don't know where the Yanks can really go. They need some sort of spark from within. There's nothing going to come from the outside. They're not going to make a trade for a big player. They're not going to call up a prospect. At least I don't think so. I don't really know what the answer for these guys is, except they got to dig in deep and say, all right, this is probably the best year they've had, probably the best chance, they've had in a while to make it out of the American League.
I refer to you as Professor Gregware. Now, no one knows the Yankees better than you do. So I need to ask you this question. This is a very important question. What is wrong with Clint Frazier and Gleyber Torres? Can you provide some kind of answer, please? I need to know, please.
I mean, yeah, no, I can try my best to answer that question, but it's a pretty loaded one. Clint Frazier, today he's had a nice game. He had the 2-run double, really the only offense so far for the Yankees. But yeah, he's been a huge liability this year. I think going into today, he was tied for like the 3rd lowest WAR in all of baseball. He's batting 187, and his defense from last year, if you remember, he was a Gold Glove candidate. That's gone out the window. He's been shaky in left and right wherever they throw him. So, yeah, that's certainly been one of the bigger issues. And the only reason that I'm more concerned with Gleyber Torres is because I think that corner outfield position will be easier for the Yankees to fill, whether it's a deadline, whether it's you let Miguel Andujar get some more reps. Because I think while he's struggled a little bit recently, he is a good hitter, and we know that will come. But Gleyber Torres, too, you mentioned, I think that, like, him or DJ LeMahieu, particularly Torres, I think is the biggest disappointment for the Yankees this year. He's in a huge slump right now. I think Gleyber Torres is like 2 for his last 35. He just struck out on a pitch that was about a foot out of the zone. So clearly he's uncomfortable. And that power that we saw those first few years in the league completely out the door. They showed a graphic on the game, the TV today, where it was from 18 to 19, his first 2 years in the league, he had like the 23rd highest slugging percentage in the year. Last 2 years, 6th lowest. So that power that he had is completely gone. He's cut down his K rate. And I think, I'm not the hitting coach, obviously. Marcus Ames talked about, before the game, how they're trying to fix his lower end of the swing. But, if you look at this from he's cutting his K rate down, he's hitting the ball on the ground more. It seems like that was kind of the trade-off for power. But the issue is that trade-off's not worth it because the contact he makes is not solid. His hard hit rate is down. His exit velo, he's bottom 5% in all of baseball. So, it's not worth the trade-off here when it comes to Gleyber Torres. I think you'd rather, if you're the Yankees, him to strike out more if it meant that power that was there those first few years was still here. So I think that's where you look at those two issues, and it really has hurt the Yankees this year because those are two guys you relied on. Obviously, Gleyber Torres has made some all-star teams. Clint Frazier, following that 2020, looked like he was primed to make a jump. And when they both take huge steps back, along with the injuries and DJ LeMahieu and other things, that's been the reason this offense has been so lackluster to start this year.
And Ryan, I guess so we've been stumped on this for so far in this segment of the Yanks. I think you might be stumped as well, but maybe you got a better idea than us. why can't the Yanks break out of this inconsistent season? Frankly, I would say slump, but it's the season. The entirety of the year, they've been extremely inconsistent. What's the number one issue? I guess maybe you're even seeing something live now. But what would you say is really the number one reason as to why this team has been so consistent through the year?
100%. And it is something we're seeing right now. It's with the runners in scoring position. They're not able to get the big hits. Yesterday, I know our producer, shout out Alex, he covered the game. He saw it. I was a fan. I saw it as well. I think they went 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position yesterday. They had a ton of chances to capitalize. They didn't do so. And tonight, while Clint Frazier did get that 2-run double, they've had a ton of other chances. DJ LeMahieu didn't get it done with the bases loaded. Neither did Rougned Odor. I think they're batting 212, 28th in the MLB going into today with runners in scoring position, with guys on base. So when you're not able to situationally hit, and when your guys' power across the board is down, right? Gleyber Torres, as I mentioned, DJ LeMahieu's power, complete non-factor, it's going to build up. And I think that's when you look at it. They've had these games like yesterday where you have a lead throughout, but you're not able to have the big inning. We've seen it all year. They're not able to break away, have a 5-6 run inning, string a ton of hits together. And when that happens, the bullpen has to pitch a perfect game. And it's the reason they're above 500 right now, because the bullpen has been so good. But Nick, to what you said, they've been so inconsistent because you're not having all the pieces of fundamental baseball work at once, right? When the bullpen's on, you don't get it from your starters. When the starters are on, sometimes your bullpen has an off night, like yesterday with Jonathan Loizaga. And then when your lineup on top of that is very inconsistent, it makes for an inconsistent baseball team, which is what we've seen. Now you hope I know they lost yesterday, but they were in a little bit of a hot stretch, 5 of 6. You hope that is a sign of things to turn around, but you just don't know. And, it's hard because like every time I'm on a show and I have to talk about the Yankees, it's this clear issue and I always bring it up, but there's no one answer that will just, snap your fingers and everything's all better. It's an underlying problem with the organization.